Welcome back. From education, let's talk a bit of health. According to the World Health Organization, nearly 3,000 people on the average commit suicide daily. About 1 million people die by suicide each year. And for every person who commits or completes a suicide, 20 or more may have attempted to end their lives. But I'd like to, at this point in time, just put out a note of warning that in the course of this conversation, there might be some words or terms that might trigger something. So please, wherever you are, look out for each other and let's just be careful. But to help us understand what's happening, we have Dr. Nathaniel Adewumi, who's a mental health advocate. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
And a psychologist, Aduralewe Ladipo. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Dr. Adewumi, let's start with you. Talk to us. Last week was suicide prevention. Was it last week? Suicide prevention week and all of that. But the figures that the World Health Organization has put out there are quite worrisome. But see this. I was this morning coming to work, and I shared that with Alera, and I shared it with the viewers. In front of the car, just smack in front of the car, a woman stops in front of the car and says, "Kill me. Kill me." You people have been, I didn't even get the rest of what she was saying, but the thing is, how is it that these figures appear to be rising and what should be done?
Okay, I'll start by saying that talking about suicide itself is all-encompassing. It's a lot. It's very, it's a big thing to talk about because it's not just a straight-lined discussion. And asking the question that, how do you, the question was...
How did we get, how is it that the numbers continue to rise?
How is it that the number is rising is that there are two ways we can look at it. It can be that, what if these are the numbers normally, but due to media becoming more social, we're getting to understand people more. People are coming to talk, people are sharing their thoughts more to the world out there, one. Or is it actually rising? Although there's a research that says that there's actually there's an increase in people trying to take their own life. There's an increase, there's a 30% increase. But that's like in a global setting, that's in a global stage. What about Nigeria? Why is the increase in Nigeria? That is not, I can't simplify that question by answering it here. But what I can say is that there are two things we can look at, and there are two ways we can look at it. It can be either because social media is becoming more, how will I put it, more integrated into our daily lives, or is actually on the increase, which research says that there's like an increase of 30%.
Okay, Aduralewe, the Suicide Prevention Day is celebrated September 10th every year. Now, in Nigeria, according to one of the rankings, latest ranking released, Nigeria was placed 5th in that ranking. We have about 15,000 suicides in every 100 suicides.
Okay.
What would you say is the reason for that? I mean, our culture doesn't really, if we want to look at it from a cultural perspective, we don't really believe in suicides. Or maybe, as you said, media is becoming more social, so we're getting to know more about it. But what is it that will lead to these numbers?
Well,
lead anybody to think of suicide?
okay, there are several factors, but we can put it together by the term called biopsychosocial factor. And when we talk about biopsychosocial factor, we're referring to biological factors that can lead to suicide. You know, it could be evidence in people's family that, okay, maybe they've been suicide attempts, or, you know, people have lived and tried to take their own life in the family, or it could be genetics based on how the person's brain is wired and the type of chemicals that are released in the brain. You know, for individuals going through depression, yes, they could, you know, have a certain amount of chemicals being released that, you know, depresses the body to lead them to want to take their own life. Then for the psychological aspects, individuals that live with mental health experiences or mental health issues, you know, might want to take their own life based on how they cope with this. And for the social factors, we have these socioeconomic issues in Nigeria. We also have issues with relationship issues. We also have, by relationship issues, we could, narrow it down to not even, not, when you're dating someone, like even immediate family relationship. We do not communicate effectively with each other. We do not have that strong bond that makes people open up. These are some of the things that can lead. So it's an holistic view. We cannot point per se to one particular thing that leads to suicide.
Dr. I once listened to a friend who actually tried to kill himself because his girlfriend had broken up with him. So he said he turned on the gas and stuck his head in the oven. I will just inhale gas and die. But he said to me, he said, the most difficult thing to do is to kill yourself.
Yeah.
Putting my head in there when I couldn't breathe, my survival instincts kicked in and I immediately ran out. So how is it that so many are succeeding? Why didn't their survival instincts kick in?
Okay. So I would like to bust some myths by sort of sharing some things that people might think is real when fact that is actually not real. The first thing I want to say is that suicide is actually preventable, very preventable. The next thing I want to say is that those that might have had gone through suicidal ideation before, by suicidal ideation I mean people that might have had thoughts of killing oneself before, can actually, after maybe getting the help that they needed, can actually live a good life without having those thoughts anymore. So,
okay.
But, for me, by me saying that, that means that research shows that men are actually likely to take their own life 4 times more than women. And the fact is that, number one, men are not open to talk to families, to friends, to loved ones, because...
Not like women are.
Yes, because they say boys will be boys. They say men are not emotional, but the truth is that we're all emotional. That's number one. Number two, research also shows that men can be more gruesome when it comes to taking their own life, because they can decide to own a firearm, they can decide to
just blow their brains out.
Sorry to say that, but we've already given you warnings. They can also decide to take poisons. But women, it shows that women, the highest form of methods or techniques that women actually use in taking their own life is actually poison. And the reason is because women are more empathetic in a way. Women think and process things before they actually take actions. And so some of them actually, there was a lady that actually shared a story when it comes to taking her own life. And she said that she actually decided to take poison because she was in the fix. She was like, should I move on or should I actually just take my own life? And she thought about, okay, if I actually take poison, I could get help in the process. So women actually tend to take it in and
not really want to.
Not really wanting to. So now the next question is, what then is suicide? And why do people, like the example you gave, why would someone want to take his or her life? Now, it's a...
Oh, my life is not worth living because my girlfriend has left me.
Yes.
Not even his wife, his girlfriend.
His girlfriend. Now, like Adura said, Adura mentioned the fact that not all suicidal ideations or not all people who actually kill themselves live with mental disorders, and that's true. There are different causes that she mentioned earlier, psychobiological and social factors. And 4 important things that we actually need to focus on is the fact that, number one, it could be due to harmful medications like LSDs, medications like antidepressants, medications like anticonvulsants. Sorry, I'm saying this.
Is LSD medication?
Or medicines, actually. Yes. Now, it's actually still medicine.
Okay, all right.
And the fact that when doctors prescribe these medicines to either people living with mental disorders or etc., they actually have a dosage Do you understand? So medicines like this should not be over the counter. Medicines like this should not be, how will I put it? Easily accessible. And imagine medicines like that easily accessible, and then people know that, okay, if I take antidepressants, I feel good, I feel all right. They start taking it, and all of a sudden, there's drug abuse. So that's a factor. Another factor is the fact that, like you mentioned, genetic factor. It could be family history of someone actually that might have decided to kill oneself, or the fact that family history of someone living with mental disorders. That's another factor. There's the socioeconomic factor. Nigeria, for example. There's the there's what we call the copycat factor, where it's a broad thing.
You've seen it before, and then you think you want to try it out yourself.
And then you say, oh wow, this guy actually killed himself using sniper. Oh, let me try sniper. So there are a lot of factors. But in regards to this story that she just explained, is a big one. You can't just pinpoint and say this guy actually decided to put his head in the fire because of his girlfriend.
Oh, he said that's what he said. She spoke to him. He said that's why he wanted to do.
Now, something I was discussing.
You think that there are some other things that might have added to that?
Like what I was discussing with Adura.
He was a teenager at the time.
Yes, I was discussing with Adura that when it comes to suicide, it means that at that point, the person is in the lowest form of unhappiness. And therefore, there's what we call affect. Affect is like emotion. There's what we call insight. Insight is like who you are, what you know. There's what we call judgment. All these things are at the lowest levels. And so you can't tell someone like that and say, you can't do this, life is beautiful. You can't tell someone like that you have a future. Because at that point, everything is low. So the person would not understand where you're coming from. But also the person, in a way, might give reasons or might find reasons of, okay, why do I really want to do this? And one way or the other might pinpoint at some things. Okay, it can actually be the breakup that I had with my girlfriend. But it might actually not be that. It could be holistic. It could be more than that. So the point is, you can't just pick a cause and say, okay, this is the cause, this is why you're doing this. But you can find triggers. You can find things surrounding, okay, this is what you're meant to do, and this is what you should correct from it. So I hope I've...
Adura, an article was written in March 2018 in one of the newspapers by Luke Onyeka Kea. Hope I got that well. It talks about the things that kill in Nigeria.
Okay.
If you put together malnutrition and poverty, they make up 31% of the things that kill in Nigeria. And it's been said that many people who commit suicide are actually poor people. But we'll look into that when we come back from this break. We'll find out why is that so. Please join us again. So, welcome. We're still discussing the focus on suicide prevention. Now, I was saying something about an article written by Luke Onyeka Kea for Guardian. And in that article, it says that the 5 leading causes of death in Nigeria include sickness, 26%, poverty, 24%, motor accidents, 16%, malnutrition, 7%, and natural death, 6%. Now says malnutrition and poverty most likely go together. And so put that together, that gives you 31%. That looks like quite a large number. Now, it said that those from the lower income end or the poorer part of society are known to commit suicide more. When you were talking about the causes, you mentioned relationships, you mentioned social-cultural issues.
Yes.
What I want us to look at is, how do we get to see these numbers go down? In the face of this situation, I mean, the poverty level is, hopefully it will improve, it will get down.
Okay.
It will drop, but for now...
Yes. Our society is not so inclusive. What I mean by that is we do not share. We weren't brought up or cultured to share.
Really?
Share your... Yeah, like...
Okay, to talk about what you're going through.
Yes, to talk about what you're going through. We rarely feel that people can understand what we're going through, so we bottle it up and we keep it to ourselves. We feel like we can handle it. Even the women want to take charge of their own situation because they do not want to be looked down upon as lesser people. So the numbers here is high, but amongst for the low class people or for the poor people,
Lower income
for the lower income earners, sorry about that, for the lower income earners, it's more of a function of relationship, like I mentioned. When we communicate properly with each other, when we use appropriate words, like we talk without judgment. Because what I was discussing with Nathan that we're in a country whereby we when we can, like when I go through something, for example, and I'm able to overcome it, I automatically might develop this perception that is a normal thing. Then when I see someone that is going through similar things and cannot handle it, I feel like, why can't this person handle it? That it is not such a big deal. But we fail to understand that we all have different level of thresholds for taking responsibilities of actions or handling different events and situations that occur in our life. So that is a very, very important thing that people need to, come to understand. We need to teach ourselves to be empathic, not just as a word, but as, a lifestyle. To understand that because we have the perception of how to handle things properly does not mean the next person close to us can handle such situation the same way. We also have to understand that people, like even if we can deal with it, does not mean the issue has been properly dealt with, because we need to also communicate to let people share their own lived experiences of situations with us. When we talk, like I always tell people that you have to be very conscious and deliberate about your thoughts, your words, your actions, your feelings, your emotions. You have to be very conscious and deliberate about how you deal with people, how you talk to people. That means before you respond to somebody, you need to take that 1 second thought to know if your response is appropriate, because we do not understand why the person reacted irrationally to us. You might feel that, somebody insulted you, you need to dish your own out back. But it's okay for us to step back, take a deep breath, and understand. Why? Because when we have that, idea of understanding, it helps us shape our mind. It teaches us to even help other people, because our behavior is what teaches. I can tell you that, I care about you, but my actions are showing something different. So our behaviors teaches, so we need to imbibe it internally for it to show in our outward expression. That way, even if the socioeconomic situation of our country isn't really encouraging, you have a supportive group that is ready to, hold you on regardless of what's going on.
You talked about the fact that men are 4 times more likely to take their own lives than women. But you have men doing hangouts with each other. Is it
men doing?
As in, they hang out with each other.
Yeah.
Men love to hang out with men and all of that. But they don't talk to themselves.
Yeah.
And so you find this tendency. But what can we do to break that cycle, to break that so that they can begin to express themselves to each other? Besides, she said something about we need to learn to be more empathic in our conversations. We need to learn to be non-judgmental. But what I might think is non-judgmental, you might say, I'm judging you. For instance, I might say, oh, lovely beard, and you've just concluded I just judged you for keeping a beard. So what do we do to ease the friction in our conversation so that I don't judge your statement, which is not meant to judge me, especially for the men?
Thank you. The question is quite bogus, and I would say the reason why. It is because the way we behave as men and the way women behave are 2 different things, even from the primary education that we've gotten, that's the family, the home. I would rather wash the car than wash the plate if I have a sister. I would, yes, it actually starts from there. I would rather polish my father's shoes than maybe dress up for my mom. And those things are what makes us. Those primary educations that we got from home, those things that we got from school are what makes us. So as a man or as a boy that grew up into a man, the question is, why don't we talk to ourselves when we need to talk to ourselves? Why do we keep things in to the extent that even the loved ones that we have, we don't share things to them until we actually need to? So if we ask the question, why, it opens up for us to understand that men don't talk at all, or even if they talk at all, is to themselves most times. So it brings another thing to mind. And what it brings to mind is that men need to talk more. Men need to share their emotions more.
The question, that's the same question, which is the question I asked.
Yeah.
Why don't men talk?
Because men
Because
think that they are not emotional.
They think that they are
Yes.
not emotional.
But the truth is that we are all emotional. I laugh, I smile,
You
I cry. We're all emotional.
No, but they say men don't cry.
Men cry, trust me. So a man would watch a movie that is very, what will I say?
Emotional,
Emotional.
very, yes.
Let's say emotional. That is very emotional. Maybe that would actually make you cry. And a man would hold.
His eyes moisten.
Yes, it moistens. But the man would be like, my wife is around. My father and mother said I shouldn't cry, I won't cry. And then after the movie, he goes to his bedroom or goes to the toilet and he cries.
Lets it all out.
So why can't you just let it all out while watching the movie? So
It makes him
men,
less of a man.
but that's not true. It makes him more of a man. Yes, because you should not determine a gender or sex by the emotions that person carry. What makes a man is not his emotions. What makes a man is his physical characteristics. And what makes a woman is also her physical characteristics. So I think we should start, like you said, we should start changing the narratives. We should start talking. Men should talk. Men should speak out. Women should talk. Women should speak out. Your emotions, in a way, do not make you your gender.
In other words, Dr. Adeomi, some of this problem is actually triggered by our parents.
Yes.
From how they bring us up. Girls do this, boys do that. Boys wash cars, girls wash plates.
Cultural
Girls,
understanding.
Yes. All these cultural things that stay with us for the rest of our lives. So, I mean, what would you be saying to the parents who may one day cry that their child has committed suicide?
Thank you. So I would like to correct a notion, and the first thing I want to say is that new narrative is that we shouldn't be saying the words like committing suicide. And the reason why is because we commit sin, we commit crimes. So committing suicide sounds like
a sin.
So instead, it's more of taking one's own life, or died by suicide, or death by suicide. It sounds more, just for everyone out there, I'm just sharing it. So to answer the question, I would not blame my parents for the way they treated me or the way they taught me, because that was how their parents taught them. And to them, they think that that's the right way to teach or to train. But it starts from us. It starts from me. So if I become a parent, what are the things I would do, or I would train or teach my children to come? I would be very specific with them. I would not see Tade as special and BC as very lazy. I would train them the way they are. So I will first do what is very needful, and that's by understanding them. What is Tade? Who is Tade? What's his strength? What's his weakness? How can I work with Tade? Tade doesn't do well in school. Should I verbally abuse him? Should I physically abuse him? Oh, BC does well in school. Should I compare BC with Tade? Do you understand? So stuff like that would help us understand our children. Do you understand? So the reason why I decided to use me as an example is because I would like to say that our parents have done what they could do with us, and I would not want to blame them because that was how they were trained. But what are the different things that we saw? What are the things that I saw that, okay, my parents were not really good at training me with? How do I correct this with my own children? That's the next question we should ask ourselves.
Indeed. Yeah, okay, so again, the conversations. I tend to dwell on the conversations here because it looks like the way we talk to each other really hurts a lot. And, you know, they say those that are hurt he that hurts will hurt others. So, as a psychologist, what would you say should be the way, if that's the only thing we're able to do? I mean, from here, we're able to solve the problem of communication. How should we talk to each other to prevent the friction,
Okay.
to prevent strife
that
may lead. And sometimes, Aleo, you might, I mean, two of us might be sitting down here. You might not know that what you said to me, I'm still carrying it, and I go back and I brood on that thing. And at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't want to say Aleo again. And then maybe one day Aleo now comes and say, Nyota, your shirt. And then I'll now take the shirt and what he said
before,
put it together
Yes,
and carry myself to the transformer, God forbid. So how do we solve that?
Gum yourself to the transformer.
Okay, so I have like an example I would like to use. Okay, a friend sent me voice notes. The reason why I'm sharing this is not because, you know, I want to share. I want to share because we can all learn from it. He said that he had an issue with his colleague at work. They are very close. You and I were very close at work. We talk very well. And then you tell me something and I just tell you, oh, like you said, your shirt is very horrible. And we joke like that on a normal ground. Then you go to the HR and you report. And you said, I was sexist. And we have a very good rapport and we have a very good communication. So he was bothered, like, why couldn't she come and talk to me? Why couldn't she express her feelings to me? We talk, she even insults me, you know, uses Yoruba language like ode and things like that, but she took this very personal. So I didn't reply him immediately. But what is interesting is that it's very relatable to what you just said, because is understanding. Everything about communication is understanding. And that split seconds of, you know, saying the next word is very, very crucial. Conscious and deliberate action, that's like my favorite motto, because it helps, like a daily reminder for me to know what to say and how to say things. So I told him that you need to understand that it's okay for her to react that way. It's okay for her to choose to report to the HR. But what's now left for you is to also decide that it's okay for you to understand that she has a right to react. She didn't like it. She couldn't express it to you, but she chose to tell the HR. You should understand that she probably has some underlying issues connected to your statements or your comment about that shirt that she did not like, and she merged the two situations together, like you said, and she felt it's not something she needs to tell you, that she needs to tell somebody else based on experience. So you need to put all those factors together, all those things together. That people, like, we say things based on what we have in our mind. You know, the schema is built in such a way that informations are being stored there. So what you don't have inside of you, you wouldn't express. So because of what she has experienced, she's able to, you know, because of what she has experienced, she's able to react in such a way that you do not like. But it's okay. When you understand that it's okay for people to behave anyhow to you, it's easier for us to keep to our own center, because the most important thing is you.
Maintaining your center.
Yes, maintaining your center. And your center is that you are in charge of your thoughts, your words, your actions, your emotions, your feelings. So I can decide to bash you with my words, but if you understand that you need to be in control of how you react to my next action or my actions, it will help us as individuals to know how to develop a strong mind. Because I was telling somebody yesterday, I'm sorry, that the mind is just like, the mind is, you have to train the mind the same way we learn how to ride bicycles, swim and all. If you do not train your mind, it would not be strong.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Nathaniel Adewumi, mental health advocate. Thank you. And Adura Lewe, Ladipo, psychologist. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you.
Sunrise will be back in a moment for the home stretch. Join us again.